Hey guys, my name's Bethany and welcome to the video. Today we're going to be taking the Enneagram Personality Test. Last week we did the Myers Briggs Type Indicator, and if you haven't watched that video, I'll link it up here and in the description. And you can see what results I got there. But in that video, we took the official version and a free version to see if the results matched up. This week we're going to mix it up just a little bit. We're going to be taking 5 free ones as well as the one official one. I just only went on Google and chose the top 5 options. So let's get into it. The Enneagram one works off of numbers instead of letters like the Myers Briggs, and you get a number 1 through 9 to determine what type of personality you are. And like I said, the official version does cost money. It is $12 to take, which is a whole lot better than that $50 last week. And the 5 other ones will be free. Just pulling up the test, it looks like that it'll take approximately 40 minutes. So I'll see you guys when I'm done. Alright, I'm done. It looks like it took me about 22 minutes, so that bodes well. I answered 144 questions, and the highest percentage that I got towards any one number was 32. So that means I'm probably an even split between about 3 or 4, so we'll see what the results are. Looks like my top result was type 4 with 32%. My second type was type 6 with a score of 23, and then my third was a type 9 with a score of 21. So all pretty similar, though type 4 is definitely a little bit above the other two. Just looking over the type 4 description, it looks like it's called the individualist, and they classify the different personality types in different centers. So there's the feeling center, the thinking center, and the instinctive center. My type 4 falls into the feeling center, and then it breaks it down into positives about your type and negatives. So some of the positives for type 4 include self-awareness and artistic creativity, and they said that there is a potential for intuition, sensitivity, individualism, self-expression, and self-revelation. The negatives include the potential for self-absorption, self-consciousness, self-doubt, and depression. I think I identify a little bit more with the negatives of this type instead of the positives. I wouldn't actually describe myself as an artistically creative person in general. And since my other 2 scores were pretty close to the type 4, I'll go ahead and quickly look at those as well. The type 6 is called the loyalist, and this one's positives include trust, perseverance, the potential for emotional bonding with others, group identification, sociability, industriousness, loyalty to others, and commitment for larger efforts. And then negatively for type 6, there's a potential for dependentness, ambivalence, rebelliousness, anxiety, and inferiority feelings. Those are definitely true in some aspects as well. I often have self-doubt, anxiety. I talked in a previous video last week about how I've dealt with anxiety and depression for the majority of my preteen, teenage, and then young adult life. So some of that hits home. And I just read over how to look at your scores in a little bit more detail, and it actually says that type 6 may have a score that doesn't follow patterns, and they may absorb other people's traits in their lives that they admire to internalize those values and those motivations to find a sense of security and stability. So whenever you're answering questions as a type 6, you may answer with a lot of different values and a lot of different viewpoints in the test, whereas you're not answering of just your own, though you think you might be. So that would result in a lot of scores across the board. I don't know if that's totally what's the case, since I did get type 4 as more of a predominant one, but it's definitely something to keep in mind, is that these tests kind of work off of how you view yourself and how you feel about yourself that day, though this test does heavily lean on wanting you to answer how you've acted your entire life and not just how you are now. And just as with last week, they give you a lot of other categories to look into depending on your type, like your fears, desires, motivations, and even addictions. And they'll go over a few famous people throughout history and current that share the same type that you have. Something else interesting is that they go into different levels for each type. So for each type, you're gonna have different levels. If you are a level 1 type 4, for instance, you will have more of the positive or healthy traits associated with that type. That might mean more healthy communication, creativity, inspiration for you. But if you are a type 9 level 4, which is the lowest or the most negative or unhealthy, you could feel hopeless or despair or even suffer from alcohol and drug abuse. And we've got a lot of tests to take, so I won't dive into each one individually, but whenever you take the test or if you research a little bit more about it, you can kind of see the different levels. Of course, in the middle is going to be like level 5 or 4, and that's going to be your median point, and that's where you're the most middle range for your type. So you can definitely check that out, and I'll leave all the description links down below of all the different tests that I'm taking and any research I may find that I may have used. So now that we have the results for the official test, I'm gonna go through and take all 5 free tests and come back with the answers for those in just a little bit. Wish me luck. This first one says it's only going to take me 5 minutes, so let's keep our fingers crossed that all of these are pretty short.
2,000 years later.
And I'm back. Just to make things a little bit easier on us, I'm gonna put all the results in a chart, which will go up as soon as we start giving results up here. And you'll see that I also put the Myers Briggs results on there just so it'll give us a good baseline or a good idea of what we've already seen, and we can move on from there. Looking at the first test, which was on EnneagramTest.net, the first type that I got out of the 3 was type 6, the loyalist, which is the type 2 that I had in the original test. My second type was type 5, which is a brand new one, which they call the investigator. And then my third type was type 4, which is the individualist, which is what I got for the first test as my highest result. So we brought in a new type here, which is a little strange, but if I really am the type 6, like they're suggesting with my top result, then that would make sense as that description we read earlier, that I'm bringing in other motivations and values into my answers that I'm giving. The next website was 9types.com. And this one was a sample test of the original, it said. So it only had 38 questions. It's a whole lot shorter than the 144 in the original, which may have skewed the answers or may not have given us such a definitive number that I am, since there were so few questions. My first type for this one was type 4 again. So that's the third time it's shown up in our tests, and the second time that it was the first number that I got. My second type was type 9, which was the third slot in our first test that we took. And then my third slot was actually a 3-way tie between 5, 6, and 2. So 2 is being brought in for the first time. We haven't seen that number before, but 5 and 6 we have seen, and that was really strange. I'd definitely say having the smaller amount of questions may have given us that tie in third place. Maybe if we had had more questions, they could have definitively said what my third place was, or maybe one of those 3 numbers may have even jumped up to the number 2 slot. Our third free website was called eclecticenergies.com. My first type here was type 6. It's shown up several different times throughout our testing. And then my second and third place actually tied at type 4 and type 9. Our fourth test is called the Loner Wolf test, and it only comes back with 1 result as your primary. And this one actually said that my primary result was a type 2, which is called the Giver. So that's shown up a couple times now, but never in the number 1 slot. And our last free test was at truity.com, and my first type was type 5, my second type was type 1, which we have never seen in our little result, and our third type was type 2. So that's a couple times that it's shown up, but in last place this time. So what do we think about all this? I tried to keep all my answers pretty consistent throughout all the tests, though of course you can't be perfect, but I would say I did a pretty good job at answering pretty much the same way if a similar question came up, answering it how I did in the previous test. And I think we saw quite a range of numbers. I would say definitely our top 3 numbers that came up a lot were the original ones, which were the 4, the 6, and the 9, just depending on where it was put in the rankings for each test. And I think if I were to choose a number for myself, I think I would choose probably somewhere in the middle of a 4 and a 6. I did resonate with some of the different details in those a little bit more than others. Some of the more negatives for 4, but some of the more positives for the 6, and vice versa. And once again, just like last week, I think some of these tests can give you some good insights to yourself, maybe give you some starting points for things you need to work on in yourself or how you feel about yourself. Though I'm not sure that there's any real concrete evidence or truths behind any of these tests, though they might be able to give you some good information. And once again, since some of the free tests had less questions, I think that may also have affected the results as well. It may not have been able to pinpoint what my actual score was. Overall, I think they're pretty fun and there were some patterns. And unlike last week, I think I actually would recommend the paid version. It's $12, so you're still paying for something, but it's not quite as bad as the $50. And I really think that it gives you a better grasp with all of the different questions that it asks and such a larger question pool. It'll give you something a little bit more accurate. So that is going to be it for this week's self-discovery video. If you liked it, please give the video a like so more people can find us, and subscribe for future content. I'm doing a whole lot of different things on this channel, so make sure and check out any other videos to see if they interest you. If there's another test you'd like to see me do or anything else personality-wise in the future, please leave it in a comment down below. And like I said, I'll link all the tests and the Myers Briggs video that I did down in the description. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Bye!